Christy.
And I'm Christine.
One of the things that we both enjoy is ZhaJiangMian. And I'm Chinese and Christine is Korean.
Yeah.
So we're like, why don't we like make this version of this dish for each other?
The first time I actually had the Chinese version of ZhaJiangMian was when I was dating this guy, and his mom's from Beijing, and she made it for me, and I was like stunned that there was like a Chinese version of ZhaJiangMian, and I thought it was like the other way around, where like the origin was like Korean and there's like a Chinese version, but she like informed and educated me that it's actually China that invented ZhaJiangMian. Do you remember like the first time you had ZhaJiangMian or ZhaJiangMian? Okay, wait, first, how do you say it correctly?
It's ZhaJiangMian.
ZhaJiangMian, is that right? ZhaJiangMian.
I like how you're still like kind of saying it in the Korean way.
ZhaJiangMian.
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 Yes.
Yeah? Okay.
Yes, yes.
Do you remember your first time having it?
I don't know if like I remember the first time that I had it, but growing up my mom would make this like Shanghainese version of the dish because she really likes to add in like a bunch of different things, which we'll get into later. After moving to New York, I really miss like this particular version of the dish that my mom had made. So I like called my mom up and I was like, hi, how do I make ZhaJiangMian? And she was like, well, let me tell you. And she like listed off all these ingredients. She was like, well, I'm picky and like I want to add in like oyster mushrooms. I want things for texture. Yeah. So I like went to Chinatown and like went to the store and looked for like the exact things she had sent me photos of. Just like remember making it in like my New York apartment, and I would like freeze it up and have just like jars of ZhaJiangMian sauce in my freezer. And that was like my lazy meal.
About your mom.
Yeah.
It's like it's a dish that's definitely packed with nostalgia, because like the most memorable experience that I had with ZhaJiangMian is with my grandma. And my grandma's from Gyeongyang, North Korea, and it's right next to Beijing. When she was a younger girl, like she remembers going on business trips with her dad to Beijing. And there were immigrants from Beijing in North Korea, and she said that she grew up eating ZhaJiangMian a lot. So having immigrated to the United States and California, like we would always go eat ZhaJiangMian with my grandma, and she would just be so happy. And this is like a very nostalgic dish for her too, but also nostalgic for me in the way that my grandma really enjoyed eating ZhaJiangMian.
Let's talk a little bit about the ingredients that we're using today. So this is everything that you need for the Chinese version. It's actually quite simple, and I like looking at your setups like, oh, it's pretty much the same. Yeah. I'm using ground pork, some cubed up zucchini. My mom does use like bamboo shoots instead of zucchini, but bamboo shoot tends to be like a little bit harder to find. And then this is actually wheat gluten. Usually we use like tofu curd or like bean curd blocks, but since Christine has a soy allergy,
so sweet.
I got this instead, which has like kind of a similar chewy texture to the doufugan. And lastly, the king oyster mushrooms. The sauces, we're using two different kinds. One is the bean sauce and the other is the sweet bean sauce. This one is tianmianjiang, and it's a fermented bean sauce, and it's actually like a little bit saltier than hoisin is. Whenever I make it at home, I really like these noodles. These are probably like my favorite dried noodles to use for like ZhaJiangMian or scallion oil noodles, or even like I think like noodle soup too. Also, I use this.
And then on the Korean side, very similar ingredients. We have zucchini, cubed zucchini, onion, cabbage, and then sliced pork belly. And then our sauce is typically there's like the chonjang, which is like the base fermented bean sauce, but then at Korean markets they actually have like this pre-made sauce that has it's like roasted for you already, and so it's more like an instant paste for ZhaJiangMian, and they added like caramel and more like seasonings into it, so I'm going to use that today to kind of like simplify the process. We decided that Christy is gonna start with her sauce first because ZhaJiangMian,
yeah.
ZhaJiangMian originated in China, so by that
I get to go first.
Yeah, you gotta go first.
So the way that my mom does it, she's like very particular, and she will cook every single one of those ingredients, like the oyster mushroom, the doufugan, the ground pork, separately.
Whoa.
But I'm lazy, so I'm just going to cook the ground pork first, take that out so it doesn't get like too overcooked, and then I'm going to cook in, put in the vegetables. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to fry our sauces. In Chinese, ZhaJiangMian actually means like zha means fried, jiang is sauce, and mian is noodles. So it's like fried sauce noodles is a translation for it.
It's so cool. Because in Korean, it's started as ZhaJangMian, which is like an adaptation of like the way that it's said in Chinese.
It was just like a transliteration?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then I think what happened was because ZhaJangMyeon is kind of hard to say,
like it doesn't roll off the tongue.
Yeah, it doesn't roll off the tongue, and so now we call it jajangmyeon. And the way that I interpreted that growing up was like ja means salty, chang means sauce, and myeon means noodles. So it's like I was thinking like salty sauced noodles.
And we're just gonna close it and let it simmer for about 5 minutes. How's the Korean one different?
It's very similar, but because we're using the different cuts of meat, I'm using pork belly and you're using ground pork, I'm going to cook the pork belly first and let the fat render, and then cook the vegetables in the fat with a little bit of oil too. But then I don't cook anything separately. It's just the cabbage, the onions, and then the zucchini. Saute that, bring the pork back in, and then stir fry it with the black bean sauce. And then I'll make a little bit of like a slurry with starch and water. I'm using tapioca starch, and that helps like kind of thicken the sauce. It gives it like more of a, what's the right word for this?
Like a gravy-like texture?
Yeah, like a gravy-like texture. And then I'll use that sauce. The sauce is basically done at that point, and then we'll spoon it over some noodles.
Yum.
Yay!
I think it's so interesting. We were talking about this, how like the Korean version is actually the one that uses the cornstarch slurry, because that's like very common in Chinese cooking.
Yeah.
But at least from like the Korean dishes I've made, I've never used a cornstarch slurry for a Korean dish before.
Yeah. But because it's like referencing a Chinese,
Yeah.
like the origins of this dish is from China, maybe because
But like
it's
we
like
don't
an
use
ode
it in
to
our version.
That is really ironic, isn't it?
Yeah. Are you trying it with vegetables, or maybe my favorite version of the Korean one I've had?
Stop! Really?
Yeah.
That's so nice.
Oh, it's very good.
Yeah.
Woohoo!
Okay, now we try
I haven't tried this yet, so
ZhaJiangMian
ZhaJiangMian.
Jajangmyeon. I love the depth of flavor in this.
It's a lot saltier than this. I like the hint of sweetness.
Wow. The flavor. I'm making this. Hands down making this. I love the minced pork in here too, the texture of that.
I think the drizzle of sesame oil adds a lot. It just adds like another layer of flavor.
I really enjoyed this recipe that Christy created, and it's on her website, so go and check it out.
Thank you so much for watching our ZhaJiangMian
And jajangmyeon.
episode, and we look forward to seeing you on the next one.
Yay! Bye! Like and subscribe. Swipe up.
Do you swipe up?